Hey friends, this is Brian Foreman with Campbell University Center for Church and Community, and it is my pleasure to talk to my friend, the Reverend. You are a Reverend, right?
Yes, I
The
am.
Reverend Gavin Spell. Do you get called the Reverend very often?
Never. I get asked, when am I going to become a real minister?
Okay, maybe we need to talk about that at some point. Gavin is the youth minister at First Baptist Church of Wilmington, North Carolina, and a Campbell alum, and grateful for his friendship and some time to sit down and chat about what's going on in ministry and life. So Gavin, I'll start off with the way I start off every conversation. Tell me what's good.
What's good? For me at this moment, I've taken different opportunities to be creative. There's a lot of chaos going on right now, lots of loss, lots of frustrating things that are going on. And we've had opportunities to be creative with different partnerships with churches and within our own church with some different ways of reaching out to people and getting connected with folks. And there's actually a conglomerate, I guess you could call it, of youth ministers I've been working with in the Triangle and really across the state to get together and make some student geared worship services, which has been an avenue for creativity. And we've been making some creative steps at First Baptist as well in the ways we're doing worship and the ways we're engaging with people. Everything has to be done through video nowadays. So we're having to record out our worship services and record out our songs and our music. And so I'd say what's good right now is a chance to be creative in a different way. We're being able to, all of us are stepping out of our normal job descriptions and we're doing things in a different way than we were doing even just a few months ago. So it's an opportunity to be creative, if nothing else.
All right, so tell me a little bit about this stepping into different ways of doing your job. Before we hit the record button, you were mentioning that you're balancing some different pieces of what you do. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Well, we've got the summer plans are changing quite a bit as we speak. Everything we've planned out for the summer has pretty much had to be canceled because of safety reasons. We had this long-standing tradition of a senior trip that goes to Bimini, which is in the Bahamas, and we've had to cancel that one. Disappointed a good number of folks with that. Passport has reached out to us and telling us that they had to cancel for safety reasons all of their camps for this summer. That was a big disappointment. And just today, I was recording the video that I'm sending out to all of our high school families, actually all the families, but it's specifically driven towards high school families that we're going to have to cancel our mission trip to Guatemala. And the church does this trip twice a year. We have a long-standing partnership. And they've assured us that we're not losing the spot we get, but we have to cancel that trip and we have to do something else instead. And so we're trying to think through ways of still engaging missionally in the summer while also admitting that we've had to lose a few things. And that's been a little bit frustrating for us, but also for, I'm sure, lots of other churches in the area as well.
So Gavin is a youth minister, and we're recording this in mid-May, and it's typically the time that we've just celebrated Mother's Day. From a church calendar with youth ministry, it's baccalaureate Sunday is coming up, graduation is coming up. We do the pomp and circumstance there well. We celebrate our seniors. It's a rite of passage. Not only are they losing that at the school level, they're also losing that at the church. You talk about some of the trips that are being canceled, that are rites of passage, like the Bahamas trip. These things that people look forward to and celebrate, and so there's grief in that. How do you continue to care for your youth, for their families, to help them make sure that they're loved and celebrated when you don't have those old ways to do it? Old ways, right?
Yeah, old ways for sure. The conversations I've been having with folks is, how do we celebrate graduation well? And that's really a hard thing, because usually this trip I was talking about is the big moment. I mean, it's looked forward to by a lot of folks, and it's one of those things that everybody talks about, and there's pictures all the way through the activity space that the church has for students and whatnot, and it's a big deal. So moving that out and then not being able to really gather for a graduation or graduate recognition, schools not being able to do graduate festivities as well, has really caused some folks to be a little bit frustrated. So we've tried to re-envision the way we do graduation at First Baptist. And I sat down with some digitally, sat down with some leaders and some folks that care a lot about students and care a lot about these particular students because they've seen them grow up and such. So we came up with 3 different ways to engage with graduation in a different way. And so usually First Baptist brings all the graduates down front in the church and they get a chance to introduce themselves. I'm so-and-so, I'm graduating from this place, and next fall I'm going to be doing this. I'll be going to that school, or I'll be doing this trade, or I'll be going to wherever. They get their moment of spotlight. So actually yesterday and earlier in the week too, I drove to everybody's house and stood in their front yard with a video camera and took some pictures of them, and also videoed them giving that introduction that they usually would do in worship. And we're going to feature that in the worship service for this Sunday, not this Sunday, for the June 7th Sunday that would be graduation. So they get that initial recognition like we would be doing anyway if we met in person. The second thing we thought of is the church won't get a chance to face-to-face congratulate these students. So one of the other ministers at the church said, why don't we do like a drive-by congratulations kind of thing? So we're planning on putting people in, there's a big parking lot that we have at our activities place that's got a lot of parking spots in a line. And so we'll take the cars and space them out between each other and have maybe 3 or 4 parking spots between each one. Let them decorate their trunks and kind of make it festive for the school that they're going to, or the school they're coming from, or anything they like to do. And then we're going to give an opportunity of about 30 minutes or an hour or so for church members to drive by and roll down their window and congratulate them and celebrate them and whatnot, and have a chance for them to publicly recognize them. And the third way, we usually do a graduate banquet, which is where the families, a couple members from each family, the small group leaders, the staff, other folks that have been involved in each student's life will get together and do a banquet, and kind of they'll show a video with pictures and do the whole tear-jerker moment where you see their baby pictures through graduation and all that stuff. And then they talk about the memories, the good times, the frustrating times, all the celebrations and stuff, and then give a chance for everybody to kind of reflect back. Well, we won't get to do that. So because we'll be socially distanced, and so we're trying to offer the banquet as more of an online Zoom party. So I'm making the video and getting the pictures and the family stuff together, and we're going to coordinate. Instead of a banquet, we're going to coordinate for the families to drive by a local restaurant and pick up their meal to go and take it home with them. And they can have supper as a family and not have to worry about it. And then we'll join in that party, that banquet on Zoom later on that evening, and get a chance to still celebrate as a group like we would as best as possible if we were in person. And all of this happens on the same day. So it's going to be tons of fun. You'll have worship, you'll have the drive-by, and you'll have the banquet all in one day, kind of like we would if things were normal scheduled, to hopefully put some normalcy to the chaos. But that's about where we're at for now for graduates. And it seems like folks are excited about that. The families that I've talked to, they're kind of excited because they've been stuck at home. They've been told no so many times that I'm finally giving them a yes. And that's kind of exciting. So there's a little bit of good in that too.
Well, and they know that they're cared for because of the level of effort that you're going through. That's pretty important, and so that's to be celebrated as well. So that's fantastic, Gavin. Thanks for the creativity you're giving to that. But creativity it only goes so far. You have to do it, right? And so thanks for the energy and effort you're putting into that as well. And I'm sure plenty of volunteers as well.
Some of that.
A little bit of volunteer management goes a long way too. Well, let's talk about some of the other things that are kind of that you mentioned are going away. Some of the other trips and opportunities to do missions, and we think about missions as an opportunity for teenagers to build this sense of understanding what it means to do kingdom building work, and they're losing those mission trips and those opportunities to develop that muscle and that really intense week time that a mission trip provides. What conversations are you guys having about the way that you can continue to do missions and service work this summer as a substitute mission trip?
So I am very much of the school that a lot of times whenever we do things in a tight setting like a mission trip, you end up bonding together, but you also like get bonding around you bond around a common goal, a common purpose together. It's bigger than just the trip itself. And yes, there's 100% benefit to our group, but there's hopefully some benefit to who you serve as well. Because we don't want to be self-centered about all that stuff. So there's a lot of different elements that go into why we do trips and things in the summer. And like I said, ours has had to be canceled. So we're trying to revision or rethink through how we can still be missional. What does missional mean as opposed to just going on a mission trip? And it's great when we can go to another country. It's great when we can go to another state, but we may need to just think missionally in a different way. So I've been having initial conversations with one of our ministers that does a lot of local missional engagement. He also does broader engagement, but he does a lot of local missional engagement. And there's some ideas around helping with some disaster relief, because hurricane blew through Wilmington 2 summers ago, and it really left a lot of devastation. There's still people recovering from that. Believe it or not, there's still people recovering from that trip. So, recovering from that hurricane. So we're still looking at ways, how can we still engage with those folks that still don't even have a home that's normal, or a home that's what it used to be, and still trying to maybe engage with folks like that. So we're looking in different ways, maybe ways we can help do some reconstruction or some tear down, some build up, or whatever, in a way that's still missionally engaging and in our community. They can still get their hands dirty, but also feel like they're building relationships in a different way too. So we're trying to think that through.
And you guys are busy.
A little bit.
You are not only doing youth ministry, you're also doing video production for the church. You've referenced a number of video projects that you're working on. How are you managing all the time?
I have a very patient wife, and she puts up with a lot when it comes to that stuff. I have a couple folks that I'm working with, and I'm not doing it all by myself. I'm kind of in charge of making things look pretty, but I don't have to worry about so much of the sound. The modern worship leader at First Baptist he's got a lot going on in his corner in regards to audio production. He's been he's a certified audio engineer, actually. So he does a lot of the audio recordings for worship services and for songs we're doing and music and things. I'm just in charge of making it look good. And I have a background in photography and video production as well that kind of helps in that. It's not too much of a stretch for me to do it. The difference here, and then the difference between now in this setting and in other settings, it was kind of a occasional basis or a here and there kind of basis. Now it's a little different because it's every week. And we like to video out a couple weeks ahead. So we're calendaring ahead, folks, and calendaring ahead songs and trying to get a repertoire of things together so that we're not having to constantly create everything new every week. But it's still kind of different, but we have to, all of us are working some odd hours and being patient with each other. And Haley helps out some too. My wife, Haley, helps out some too with some video stuff, but just kind of cranking on through and working with a team of folks instead of just myself. That's how, I guess, the best way I can do it.
Yeah. And so that kind of brings us full circle. I love the fact that you're finding ways to be creative. You also have the tools to be creative. And so exercising some of that muscle as well. I mean, it really is amazing. Sometimes the giftedness that God has given each of us and where it bubbles up and comes onto display. I have to ask you a question that I'm sure you're not prepared for, but I can't help it because in my own life, I am trying my best to convince my wife that we need a dog, and I'm looking over your shoulder, and in the center picture behind you is the feature picture is the good boy. So tell me who that is.
It's our dog Shelley. When we were living in Dunn 8 years ago, I think is when it was, she just wandered up to the church we were working at, and she was it's on Highway 421. So it's a major highway between Clinton and Dunn. And if you go to Campbell, odds are you're probably going to drive on 421. And this church was positioned on 421, and we were like, we need to do something or else this dog's going to get hit by a car. And so I stuck her in the church's, like there's a children's area that has a pen to it. And I stuck her there after church and was like, we're going to go eat lunch and come back and address this situation. Ended up, down the road, we ended up taking the dog home. And once you pay that vet bill to get the dog checked out to make sure she's not, whatever, you're like, okay, I guess we have to own this thing, because she didn't have any collar tags or anything. She hadn't even been spayed or anything, so we had to do all that too. And next thing you know, it's like, well, you kind of got a dog. I say that, I'm looking at her. She's over there on the ottoman in the den, just kind of laying there. She's now 9 years old or so. So we don't even know when she was. I think it's someone's hunting dog they let go because she's too barkative instead of talkative. She's very barkalicious. So, and you can tell she used to be a hunting dog. She'll get in a pack of dogs and chase things together like she's a rabbit dog or something. So yeah, that's who that is. That picture was taken about 7 years ago. Yeah.
So she's probably good to run with you then, huh?
Oh, she loves it. Oh my gosh. Like she wants to go as soon as there's a video I posted, if you care, on TikTok, of the dog barking when Haley was stretching to go run. Like she never barks inside until Haley starts to get ready to go run. And then she loses her mind because she loves to go outside and run. Even at 9 years old, she can still go run 5, 6, 7 miles.
Oh, wow.
So pretty intense. But we've been doing that since we've had her. So yeah, she loves it.
That's great. Well, Gavin, I think that's a good place for us to end today. Thanks for the creativity that you're giving to your work. Thanks for the thoughtfulness you're giving to teenagers and their families, and quite frankly, working with youth ministers across the state to sort of divvy up some of that work and share and keep content creative and fresh. And it lets our youth know that they're cared for and that they're loved. So that's such an important thing for teenagers. And we as adults, we're trying to figure our way through this, but for teenagers, it's every bit as weird and strange for them in some of the same ways, but in some very, very different ones. So as a person who has teenagers and as a person who spent a lot of time in youth ministry, thank you for loving our kids and for the good work that you're doing